One of the great things about bait fishing for snapper, and as I was saying it earlier, it pretty much is a bait orientated sort of fishery, but the good thing is you don't need heaps and heaps of gear. Sure, you need a few rods and stuff like that, but the actual terminal side of it, and terminal I mean hooks, sinkers, swivels, all that sort of gear, you don't need heaps. But being organised will help you catch more fish, because just like having your burley organised and your baits organised, and when the action's happening you want to be able to keep that burley going and not have to worry about cutting things up. Having rigs pre-made and having everything sorted and so you know where everything is will also help you, because you might get a fish and have to cut that rig off, you might bust off, whatever. It's so much easier if you can just reach into a bag, grab the bits you need, put them back on and be straight back in action. It takes you a matter of seconds. So I'm just going to run you through a few different things, a couple of different styles of rigs that you can use and different ways that you can actually fish. So starting out with the probably most common way of fishing for snapper, which would be for most people 15 to 20 pound line on their rod, and they just get it. They don't even worry about a trace, but we'll just pretend this is coming off the rod. And very, very simply is all you have to do is get yourself a ball sinker about that size, and especially at this end of Port Phillip Bay, you know, the eastern side and up towards the northern end of the bay, there's really not a lot of tide. Down the bottom end, Rosebud, Rye, Sorrento, all those areas, you're getting right down where the tide is, and you need totally different rigs for those areas. But up here, not a lot of tide, your bait just sits on the bottom, and basically ball sinker on the line just like that. He'll just float up and down very, very easily. And then it's a simple matter of 2 hooks. Most people tend to like sort of a 5/0 size suicide or octopus pattern hook. That's pretty much him right there. He's got an offset in him just like that, and a funny shaped shank that sits in the bait just beautifully. They're chemically sharpened, so they're extra sharp, but the trick is don't ever put them back in your tackle box, because they'll just send the rest of the hooks in there rusty. So quite simply, get one of these, chuck him on the line, and he just sits on the line just like that. Then you get your next hook, tie it on with whatever knot you use. I use one called a hangman's noose, and I haven't actually seen anyone else use this knot, but I love it. Pull that tag up, good set of cutters, chop him off, and that is one rig that you can use, and I'll show you how to bait up with these rigs as well. But that's one very, very simple rig that's very, very effective. The next rig you can use involves the use of an actual bit of leader line, and the really good thing about this sort of stuff, you can actually make these rigs up at home. You can tie them up in the boat while you're waiting for the action to happen. And the trick is, guys, leader line is or trace line is different to normal fishing line. It's harder coated, you know, so it's going to cop that wear and tear that happens around fishers' mouths and rigging baits and all that sort of stuff. A standard mono like that in 30 or 40 pound is absolutely perfect. It's nice and strong, and the real damage comes from around where you half hitch your baits, and I'll talk more about that again when I'm actually doing the rigging. Or you can go to something like a fluorocarbon line just like this. This is 30 pound. It's nice and thin, very, very hard coated, and being fluorocarbon, it actually becomes more invisible when it goes in the water because the light can pass through it, which means that the fish can't see it as well. So very, very popular these days. It's a little bit more expensive, but you're only using, you know, a metre or so at a time. So for this rig, I like to give myself, you know, around a metre of leader. Very simply, chop him off like that, and then you can use again whatever hook you like. We'll just do it again with some 5/0 hooks. Just grab a couple out there, tie one hook on very simply, and if you look, there's a couple of knots you can use, guys. I'll show you probably the most common knot that people use, which is basically get your line, pass it through there, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then pass that line back through that little loop there, pull him down, wet it, and then that's it, just like that. The idea of wetting the line is it doesn't burn it. If you don't wet it, when you pull that knot down, it causes friction, and it will actually heat that line up and burn it, which weakens it. You might not be able to see too much. If you do it really badly, you'll feel it goes all sort of rough, but even just heating it up like that can actually weaken it. So that's why you wet it. Your knot snugs down a lot better. Trim him off, hook's tied in like that, our length of leader just there. Then I get another hook, in this case another 5/0, pop him straight on the line, and he sits down like that. Then very, very simply, I'll get that sliding hook, move it to the distance I want it, which is about there, absolutely perfect. And then that line's just running through the eye of that hook. we then come straight back down over the shank of the hook like that and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, that'll do. Up once like that, and then the end of this line, straight through there, pull him up, and that's a snell. That hook's now locked on the line, ready for action. To the end of this leader, I'm going to attach a swivel. This one here is a crane, and it pays to use something like a crane or a rolling swivel rather than the standard barrel swivel, because these guys, for their size, are far, far stronger. So again, attach him to the line with your uni knot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back through that loop again, just like that. Snug it down, trim it, and there you have one rig that's ready to be used. And you can do it a couple of ways. If I'm making these up to store them, I'm going to show you my rigging kit in a minute, I'll actually leave that swivel off the end so that when I need to chuck it on the end of a line, generally you'll have a swivel on the rod already. But that rig's now made. Roll him up nice and neat, just like that. Just chuck that back hook through there a couple of times, and that's a rig that's ready to roll for when I need it. I don't have to tie that when I'm in the middle of a hot bite and everything's happening and I can't even think straight because there's rods buckled. So that's that one. Very, very effective, very easy to do, and best of all, you can make them up, as I'm saying, and have them ready. As you'll see here, I've got just little bags like that. There's actually 2 rigs in there ready to go, no swivels on them. And the other bonus to leaving the end open is that you can use them 2 ways. You can actually dig your rig out just like this, and if you like to fish a ball sinker straight down onto the hook, or however you want to do it, I can basically just unroll this trace, and I always do that the last bit of twist on my trace is the bottom hook. Once I unravel that, I only have to go like that and my trace comes undone every single time. It's not all tangled up and stuff like that. The bonus to having this trace end open, as I was saying, with no swivel on it, if I need, I can drop a ball sinker straight onto it like that. Then I could tie a swivel onto that end, cast it out, and it's ready to go. Or if I wanted to fish the way that I generally do it, tie that to the swivel, and then above the swivel have the barrel sinker. Different options, different ways you can do it. Best of all, you can have them all rigged up, ready to roll, labelled on the bag or labelled as to what they are, so that when you're again in the heat of the moment, you're not going, are they the right trace? Are they the ones I made for that, or whatever? Very simply, something like this little kit here, it's got these leaves in it. They're a bit light on for traces right at the moment, but there you go, leaves with traces. It's got WP, which means Western Port 5.0 with a 40 pound and a 6.0 circle. So that keeps me knowing that that's what they are. Then I've got other ones here, that'd be 6.0s. I've got some little wire traces there. There's all sorts of bits and pieces, and again, it just makes it so I know what I've got when I need it. There's a few hooks and sinkers and stuff like that in there, and this one kit can really get me out of trouble. The other thing that you can do, guys, 2 other rigs, well, they're the same rig, but just with slight variations. If I get, again, a piece of leader, and the end's hiding on me, so we'll use some of this. Right, and I'll cut myself a length of leader. And basically in Port Phillip Bay, we rig our baits tail first, so the tail points up towards the rod tip and the bait lays on the bottom. So one thing you can do, circle hooks have become very, very popular, and the idea of your circle hook is that he's got that curved in tip there, and the idea is the fish comes along, eats the bait, and as he turns around to swim away, that hook won't catch so much on the inside of his mouth or down in his stomach. It will actually slide out till it hits the corner of his jaw and lock in, and once it gets into that corner of the jaw, that's the toughest part. Once that hook's in there, very, very, very rarely will it come out. So what I like to do in Port Phillip Bay is actually fish a suicide on the top hook and a circle on the bottom. And generally you'll find that your big fish will be on that bottom hook because he comes in, grabs the bait head first, takes off, and you've got him on. Smaller pinkies and that will quite often come in, smash the middle of the bait because they might have a couple of other mates with them that are actually competing to try and get that food. So he'll come in like a flock of seagulls would on a chip, come in, grab it and try and take off with it to then go and eat it. So this rig here, very simply, length of leader, just like this, back hook, you can tie it on, you can snell it on, you can do whatever you want, but for the purpose of this exercise, we'll tie him on, again, just with a uni knot, just like that, through that loop there. Snug it down, and I didn't wet it, and I should have, but see, and I didn't actually put enough twist in that line, and see, that pulls through, so you always want to give your knot a very, very good snug down. So I'll do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 twists. Straight back through there. Wet down a little bit. Wet it. There you go. Look at that. That's going nowhere that time because I put more twists in the knot. There we go. Back hook's on. Now, and that's the circle hook or the bottom hook. Then I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. I'm going to put that hook on there, whatever distance apart that I want them, that'll do fine. And again, down the shank of the hook. And then up once, and then through the eye of the hook. Trace is ready. Now, if I was fishing Western Port, I would do it the other way around, because in Western Port we rig the bait so they sit, you know, if the tide's flowing through here, the bait sits in the current like that, and generally the head of the bait is the part that gets hit, because the fish will come up current, turn and eat the bait, just because everything folds down, spines and spikes and stuff on a natural piece of fish, so they're going to generally hit the top of the bait first. So in Western Port, when we're making our rigs, we very simply just do it that circle hook sits on the top and the suicide hook is on the bottom. So all you got to do is just reverse your rig. Circle to the top hook, suicide to the bottom hook. And again, you'll find the suicide, this one here, or the octopus, being on the bottom, smaller pinkies and little gummy sharks, and that will come in and chew the back of the bait and get hooked that way. Any half decent fish tends to come in, come up current, turn, and you'll get him on that circle hook. Again, once he's on, he's going nowhere. But again, it pays to have this stuff sort of ready, pre-made, makes life much easier. As far as tackle goes, you don't need to have a tackle box just absolutely brimming with everything. This single little tray here that I've got has all the bits and pieces that I need to get me out of trouble. I've got some whiting swivels, some bigger swivels, some hooks, some whiting hooks, some beads, some easy rigs, a bait jig, just stuff to get me out of trouble, plus pre-made rigs, plus extra boxes of hooks. This stays up out of the weather, so it's always in good condition. So it's a fantastic way to go, guys. Just have your gear organised and you will enjoy your fishing so much more, and you will catch more fish, because in those prime bite periods, you'll be getting them. Okay, so I've just wound this bait in, but there's nothing wrong with him, but he has been out there for a little while, so I'm just going to swap it over and put that fresh one on. That's a half chewed up pilly that I've just swapped over. Now, when it comes to rigging your silver whiting, just like with your pilchard, Port Phillip Bay, generally do it so that your bottom hook, in this case it's a circle, is going to end up at his head. 2/3 the way down the fish, hook straight through sort of his shoulder, pull it all the way through. This is the good thing about baits like silver whiting and garfish and stuff, they're tough, so that's gone all the way through, just like that. It's just hanging through there. I like to then come back over the top again, just back behind the gill case, in, and then dig it out actually in his gill. A nice hard spot like that. Pull this line up, and then this back hook, actually just put him in the bait in the side there, pop him out. Always make sure that there's never ever a scale over the tip of the hook. If there's a scale over there, I can go like that, and that hook just will not go into my finger at all, because the scales are so hard, I'm pushing fairly hard on that right now. It's not doing anything, I can hardly even feel it. If I pull that scale off, I go like that, that's in my finger. Very, very good thing to remember. Always make sure every scale's off. Then it's a simple matter of a half hitch, one there and one there. And this is the reason that I like to use the heavier leader, 30 or 40 pound, because those half hitches, the spine on this whitey is quite sharp when you actually get to the backbone of it. So the heavier leader can handle the wear and tear and the abrasion of all that. And it's when you hook a fish and everything's pulling really, really tight, the fish is going that way and you're going that way, those half hitches can lock around and they can just snap the line at times. And I've lost, in the early days, good fish by running light leaders and stuff like that. If it's light leader, it really locks in there. It's hard to get it undone. Heavier leader, 30, 40 pound, undo it, take the old bit of bait off, and you're away. I'll half hitch him back on. He's ready to go, and the main thing is hooks are sticking out, very visible. Any fish that inhales that is just going to hopefully cop a gobful. This one sort of, he took off pretty hard when he got hooked. He sort of got a bit of weight out there. These long, light little rods. You've got your bait runner reel, they've all got great drags. When it's set right, you just shouldn't bust fish off with a good drag. Nice, smooth rod work. Gets the fish up a lot better than aggressive rod work, because aggressive rod work will just stir that fish up. There we go, that one's hooked on again too. There must be some fish down there. I'm gonna throw a lure in a minute, see how we go. This is awesome fun. My brother-in-law's just down there. I better give him a call in a minute and see if he's catching them. If he's not, I better get him in here next to me or he'll crack it. And for good reason. If he didn't ring me, I'd be disappointed. And that's the beautiful thing about all this. We've got scattered boats all around here, and from what I can see, guys are sort of catching fish all around. So, you know, you don't have to sit on top of each other, but there's fish there to be caught. Yeah, there's a fish on that one as well. Here we go, there's that colour. White and red. Whew, he's a nice one. Not a monster, but a nice one. Oh yeah, that's gold. Absolute. Perfect. That's awesome. How good is that? You're going back too. He's off.